Thank you, Dr. Anna Hall, for your vision, and I think most importantly, for your inspiration of what we can all do when we work together. Your insights, your energy, and your leadership of one of our most cherished institutions, OHSU. We're grateful. I would now like to introduce Dr. Brian Druker, who leads OHSU's Knight Cancer Institute, and Dr. Bob Guldberg of the University of Oregon Knight campus for accelerating science impact. They will discuss the innovations coming out of their respective and collaborative campuses. Please welcome Dr. Druker and Dr. Guldberg.
Well, good morning. It's such an honor to share the stage with my good friend, Dr. Brian Druker. Brian and I have the privilege of leading sort of sister institutions at Oregon State University, or at Oregon Health Sciences University and the University of Oregon that, although independent, really have very complementary missions. At the Knight campus at the University of Oregon, our mission is really to accelerate the translation of research discoveries into societal impact, with an additional focus on biomedical innovation and technology. And in addition to innovation and research, you can see that we've built 2 state-of-the-art buildings on this campus. The first one was opened in 2020 and is already at capacity. And so we're very excited to be opening a second building, which you see in the background there, in March 2026. In addition to the innovation and research activities, we are building academic programs that are really focused on meeting the evolving workforce needs of the Oregon economy in areas like biomedical engineering, semiconductors, bioinformatics, and molecular sensors, and more. We also, in one of our real customers in that area, is particularly for the bioinformatics program, has been the Knight Cancer Institute, which has hired 37 of our graduates over the years. We've also been very, very focused on trying to break down the walls of the ivory tower and create a more facile interface for private-public interactions. And we're doing that in a lot of different ways, but one of the ways is we're building what we call spin spaces with the help of the Papé family, where existing companies can spin in and they can collaborate with our faculty and students at the University of Oregon. And also our startup companies have a place to spin out and incubate as they're developing their business plans. So I'd like to give you just a couple examples really very briefly on some of the innovations that are spinning out from the Knight campus. And I'm going to do this in the sense of creating a market need or a problem and how that solution or how that problem is being met. The first is that R&D in synthetic biology and pharmaceuticals can't get large enough gene libraries at low enough cost. And this is really limiting the development of machine learning training sets as well as lead discoveries. It's really a bottleneck. So the solution being offered by Simplexity, and one of the things I'm most proud about is Simplexity was a startup company by an assistant professor at the University of Oregon and the Knight campus. And Simplexity is addressing this problem using a technology called DropSynth, which uses barcoding of the DNA in order to create reactions within a single tube, making tens of thousands of genes at 8 to 10 times lower cost. And so this is creating the largest, most cost-efficient gene libraries that are on the market. And you can see a very large number of large dollar markets that will use this technology. Now, Simplexity is just a baby. They were formed last year in 2024, received just over $500,000 in investment, but they're already revenue generating with their first products going out this year. A second very, very different problem is that our ACL injuries are resulting in surgeries which have limited success. And this is really particularly an epidemic for our female athletes that experience ACL injuries at 4 to 5 times that of male athletes. You can see some of the poor statistics here, particularly for long-term osteoarthritis developing from ACL injury. So the solution for this being offered by Pandaria, which is a startup company by Guiyang out of the Knight campus, is to develop implantable sensors, essentially smart suture buttons that allow surgeons to precisely dial in optimal tensions during surgery in order to balance out range of motion and stability, and also provide data-driven surgical rehabilitation data after the surgery. Pandaria is a little more mature than Simplexity. It was formed in 2021. They've received $3 million in SBIR funding and just completed their first $1 million raise. This year, very excitingly, they received Breakthrough Technology designation by the FDA, and they hope to submit for FDA approval in 2026. The last example I'll give is that our bodies are highly complex and highly variable. But unfortunately, medical implants come in fixed designs in a limited number of sizes, small, medium, and large. And that doesn't fit, of course, all of our bodies. And so the solution being offered by Restore 3D, of course, is 3D printed, personalized implants. And this has taken the design innovation cycle, which is usually about 7 years for a medical device, down to a number of weeks in which an image is taken by the doctor, it's sent to the design team, they design an implant, manufacture it, and implant it in the patient. Now, this company was launched in 2017. I helped to co-launch this company right before I came to the University of Oregon. It's received over $150 million in investment at this point, has hired hundreds of employees, and they hope to take this public next year. The thing I'm perhaps most proud of with this company is that 2 of my students are in the C-suite of this company. So how are we interacting with Knight Cancer Institute? In many, many different ways, but I want to really highlight 2 areas before turning it over to Brian. One is in the area of biomedical data science. One of the things I really wanted to do when I came here in 2018 was to catalyze more statewide collaborations. And with the support of Tim and Mary Boyle, we created a Center for Biomedical Data Science that is taking data from patients at OHSU and integrating those into models at University of Oregon. At University of Oregon, we have great data science programs. As I mentioned, they're being hired at OHSU. And now we're in discussions with Oregon State University and the capabilities they'll have on the Huang complex to really create something that will be a nexus of strength in Oregon and make us competitive in this very, very important area for everything that we do. Now, another area that we're working together is in the area of biofabrication. And this is something that you may not know as much about, but biofabrication is sort of 3D printing, but with more complexity. Instead of just 3D printing a medical implant out of metals or plastics, you're actually printing living cells, a living product. And so why would you want to do that? Luis Bertassoni is leading the Biofabrication Hub at Oregon Health Sciences University in order to generate more precise models of patient tumors that would help us to understand cancer biology and actually perhaps be able to test a number of drugs on those living avatars of the tumors before going into the patient. This is what it would look like. Again, it's more complex than 3D printing, but what's amazing about this technology is we can now actually print at a resolution of single cells. So what does that mean? That means you can take a tumor histologic section that you're seeing here, and the complex cells and a number of different types of cells and how they're organized is important to the tumor biology. And that can now be printed with living cells to create an avatar of that tumor and use that to test different drugs. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Druker, who's going to tell us a little bit about some of the exciting things coming in the Knight Cancer Institute.
Well, thank you, Bob. It is such a pleasure to collaborate with you on all these incredible projects, the computational biology, this amazing 3D printing that helps us match patients with the right drugs and get the best outcomes. And I also want to thank all of you for being here today at this Innovation Summit. So 25 years ago, on this very day, at a conference of over 25,000 participants, I presented data on a drug I helped develop, a first-of-its-kind drug that targets cancer cells without harming normal cells. This drug, as you heard from Dr. Almahal, changed life expectancy for patients with a specific leukemia from 3 to 5 years to a normal lifespan. The drug appeared on the cover of Time magazine. Thank you. This drug appeared on the cover of Time magazine in 2001 and helped launch this innovation, launched the entire field of what we now call precision oncology, where we take patients' tumors, understand what their molecular features are, and match them with the right drugs. There are now hundreds of drugs on the market that specifically target cancer cells and hundreds more in development. Just over 10 years ago, we completed Phil and Penny's Night Challenge to raise $500 million for cancer research if we matched it with $500 million. This match included $200 million from the state of Oregon that built the building that Bob showed you on one of our slides. We got $100 million from Oregon's one and only One Tough Mother and my very dear friend Gert Boyle. The other $300 million came from 10,000 donors in all 50 states, but 70% were from Oregonians. With these funds, our promise was to launch an entirely new effort into the early detection of cancer. In the process, we hired over 1,000 new researchers, faculty, and staff to work in Oregon on cancer. The promise was, with this new field of early detection, was to help companies develop tests that could identify large numbers of cancers at their very earliest stages. And we've assisted in the development of several tests that can identify at least 50 cancers at early stages in simple blood samples. Now, it kind of sounds like science fiction, but it's now reality. Some of this data was recently presented at an international conference by one of our investigators, and again put the spotlight on innovation coming from Oregon. Now, as you've heard, Penny and Phil and I have recently announced an historic pledge of $2 billion to the OHSU Knight Cancer Institute. They call on us to set our sights high, and as the Oregonian said, to be unapologetically ambitious. They remind us that great things can and will happen in this state we love. We've revolutionized cancer treatments and the early detection of cancer. Now we're going to revolutionize cancer care. For anyone in this room who's had to deal with our complicated healthcare system or the devastation that cancer wreaks on patients and their families, we know there's a better way. We will develop a new standard of cancer care that speeds up diagnosis, ensures patients have access to the most innovative clinical trials, and provides a comprehensive suite of support services, including things like nutritional support, symptom management, mental health care assistance, financial counseling, and survivor support. But most importantly, there will always be somebody available to help navigate this complicated system and to be that reassuring voice that tells you, we've got this for you. So I have the privilege of continuing to see patients one day a week. Some of these were patients who 25 years ago were told to get your affairs in order. Patients travel from around the country to see me. And our program's been set up to make this as easy as possible. Now, I hope they look forward to seeing me, but they also look forward to spending an extra day or two in Oregon, visiting the Japanese garden, driving to Mount Hood or the Gorge, or spending some time on the coast. And this is what we want for every single patient with cancer, to be the very best place for cancer care in the best place on earth. And as the East Oregonian said during the challenge, isn't this what we want Oregon to be known for? Thank you very much.